Marcus stepped through the wreckage with caution, his boots crunching against shattered metal and crystallized debris. The crash site stretched across the canyon floor like a wound in the earth, still smoking from atmospheric entry. Beside him, Rex whined and pressed close to his leg, the German shepherd's ears flattened against his skull. "Easy, boy," Marcus murmured, adjusting the rifle slung across his shoulder. The distress beacon had led them here, pulsing through the Kunz-array back at the settlement. 3 days of tracking through the Badlands, and now this, a ship of unknown origin, torn apart and scattered across 2 kilometers of red stone. Rex barked once, sharp and insistent, and bolted toward a section of hull that had embedded itself in the canyon wall. Marcus followed, his heart rate climbing. The dog had found something. She was dying when they reached her. The alien lay half-buried beneath a collapsed bulkhead, her forearms splayed at unnatural angles. Her skin shimmered with bioluminescent patterns that flickered and faded like failing lights. 2 large eyes, vertical pupils dilated wide, tracked Marcus as he approached. She tried to speak, but only a wet, rattling sound emerged from the breathing slits along her neck. "Don't move," Marcus said, knowing she probably couldn't understand. He keyed his comm. "This is Marcus Webb, colony designation Phoenix 7. I've got a survivor at the crash site, critical condition. Requesting immediate medical evac." Static crackled back at him. The canyon walls were too thick, the interference from the wreck too strong. Rex circled the alien, sniffing carefully, then sat down beside her head and looked at Marcus expectantly. "Yeah, I know," Marcus said. He dropped his pack and pulled out the emergency medical kit. Human supplies, designed for human biology, but he had to try something. The alien's breathing slits were fluttering irregularly, and the light patterns on her skin had dimmed to almost nothing. He worked quickly, using the scanners to map her physiology as best he could. 3 hearts, all failing. A distributed nervous system that seemed to be shutting down section by section. Internal bleeding in at least 4 major cavities. She should have been dead already. Her upper right hand moved weakly, grasping at the air. Marcus caught it gently, surprised by how delicate her 3 fingers felt. Her skin was warm, almost hot, and the bioluminescent patterns pulsed once against his palm. "I'm going to get you out of here," Marcus said. "Just hold on." He couldn't move the bulkhead alone. The metal was twisted and fused, pinning her lower body completely. He tried to come again, got the same static. Rex barked at him, frustrated. Marcus looked at the dog, then at the dying alien, then at the emergency kit. There was one option left, though it terrified him. The experimental trauma gel, designed for catastrophic injuries when proper medical care was hours or days away. It had worked on humans exactly 3 times out of 10 trials. The other 7 had died screaming. But she was dying anyway. He loaded the injector, calibrated it for what he hoped was the right dosage based on her body mass, and pressed it against the largest cluster of biopatterns on her upper torso. The gel released with a hiss. For 10 seconds, nothing happened. Then the alien convulsed, her body arcing up against the bulkhead. All 4 arms locked rigid. Her breathing slits sealed shut. Marcus grabbed her hand again, holding on as she thrashed. "Come on," he whispered. "Come on, come on, come on." Rex howled, a long and mournful sound. The alien went still. Marcus pressed his fingers against her neck, feeling for any pulse, any sign of life. The bioluminescent patterns had gone completely dark. He'd killed her. Then, slowly, light began to spread across her skin. Not the flickering, dying glow from before, but something stronger, more vibrant. The patterns flowed and merged, creating new configurations. Her breathing slits opened again, drawing in deep, steady breaths. Her eyes focused on Marcus with sudden clarity. She spoke, and this time her voice was strong. The words were incomprehensible, a melody of tones and harmonics that his translator couldn't parse. But her meaning was clear in the way she gripped his hand, in the intensity of her gaze. "Thank you." It took Marcus 4 hours to cut through the bulkhead with the plasma torch from the wreck. The alien, who had tapped her chest and said something that sounded like Lyra, watched him work with unwavering attention. Rex stayed beside her the entire time, occasionally licking her face, which made her produce a sound Marcus interpreted as laughter. When she was finally free, Lyra stood on unsteady legs. 2 of her arms were clearly broken, hanging useless at her sides, but the trauma gel had stabilized her enough to move. She gestured at the wreck, then at the sky, and made a complex series of movements Marcus couldn't decipher. "Your crew?" he asked, pointing at the scattered debris. Lyra's light patterns shifted to deep blue and purple. She shook her head, a gesture apparently universal. They made camp in the canyon that night. Marcus splinted Lyra's broken arms as best he could while she watched with fascination. She tried to help with setting up the shelter, but kept getting in the way, until finally, Marcus just handed her tasks she could do one-handed. She learned quickly, adapting to human tools with surprising ease. Rex appointed himself her guardian, refusing to leave her side even to eat. Over the next 3 days, as they made the trek back to Phoenix 7, Marcus learned to read Lyra's light patterns. Blue meant sadness or pain. Gold meant curiosity or interest. Red meant danger or fear. Green, which became more common as they traveled, seemed to mean contentment or gratitude. She was constantly green around Marcus and Rex. On the second day, they encountered a razorback pack. 6 of the predators, each the size of a small car, with mandibles that could shear through steel. They'd been tracking the group since dawn, waiting for an opportunity. Marcus raised his rifle, knowing he could maybe take down 2 before they closed the distance. Not good odds. Lyra stepped in front of him. Her skin erupted with light, patterns so bright and complex they seemed to pull at Marcus's eyes. She raised all 4 arms, even the broken ones, and the air around her began to shimmer. The razorbacks stopped, their compound eyes reflecting the display. Then, as one, they turned and fled into the rocks. Lyra collapsed immediately afterward. Marcus caught her before she hit the ground, her skin flickering weakly. "What did you do?" he asked. She touched his forehead with one finger. For just a moment, Marcus felt something vast and ancient brush against his mind. A species that had evolved to communicate through light and bioelectricity. A people who could interface with neural systems directly, who could project thoughts and emotions and commands into the minds of other creatures. She had convinced the razorbacks that they were facing something far more dangerous than they actually were. "You're a telepath," Marcus said softly. Lyra's patterns shifted to gold. She touched his forehead again, and this time Marcus felt gratitude so profound it brought tears to his eyes. Not just for saving her life, but for treating her with kindness when he could have left her to die. For spending hours freeing her from the wreck. For sharing his food and water and shelter. For being, in her estimation, exactly what she had heard humans could be at their best. By the time they reached Phoenix 7, Lyra's arms had mostly healed. The trauma gel, combined with her species' natural regeneration, had worked better than Marcus could have hoped. The colony's medical team was both fascinated and horrified when Marcus explained what he'd done. Lyra spent 3 weeks at the colony while they waited for her people's rescue ship. She learned basic English and taught Marcus and the other colonists the fundamentals of her language, Velkari. She demonstrated her people's technology, their ability to interface with machines through thought alone, their deep understanding of quantum mechanics and dimensional folding. But mostly, she spent time with Marcus and Rex. On her last night at Phoenix 7, Lyra asked Marcus to walk with her to the canyon overlook. Rex trotted between them, tail wagging. "My people are coming tomorrow," she said, her English heavily accented but clear. "I will tell them about you. About what you did." "I just did what anyone would do," Marcus said. Lyra's patterns flashed bright red, the first time he'd seen that color directed at him. "No, most would not. Most would see alien, see unknown, see risk. You saw a person. You saw someone who needed help." She paused, searching for words. "You are why we have protocols now. First contact protocols. Because of humans like you, there are protocols?" "Yes." Her lights shifted to gold. "Because 3 years ago, human ship found Velkari research station. Station was failing. Everyone dying. Humans spent 2 months helping, risking own lives, expecting nothing. Word spread. Now all Velkari know. Humans are dangerous, yes, but also capable of great kindness, great courage, great stubbornness in protecting others." Marcus laughed. "That sounds about right." Lyra turned to face him fully, all forearms spread wide. "My people wish to know yours better. Trade, knowledge, alliance. I am to be ambassador. Because I understand now what they meant." Her lights pulsed in a complex pattern Marcus had learned meant deep sincerity. "Thank you, Marcus Webb, for my life, for showing me that the stories were true." The rescue ship arrived at dawn. It was massive, all flowing curves and bioluminescent panels, nothing like human engineering. Lyra stood at the boarding ramp with Marcus and Rex, her belongings packed in a container TH